John Wick's great-grandfather is back, and this time he's gotten some advice from Dom Torreto's great-granddad, because SISU Road to Revenge is somehow more unhinged and crazy than its predecessor. And I guess since the subtitle of Fury Road was already taken, they had to come up with something different. Returning to the house where his family was brutally murdered during the war, Aatami dismantles it, loads it on a truck, and is determined to rebuild it somewhere safe in their honor. When the Red Army commander who killed his family comes back hellbent on finishing the job, a relentless cross-country chase ensues. Jorma Tommila is back once more as Aatami, the man who refuses to die. This time he's just trying to move his home. But instead of the Germans getting in his way, it's now the Russians. More specifically, Stephen Lang, the Russian warlord who slaughtered Aatami's family. Alright, so we can all pretty much agree that the first SISU was gloriously brutal and savage in its violence. And in a few of the instances, they begin to go off the rails, especially that plane sequence at the end. Now at that point, the movie just dove headlong into ridiculousness. But it didn't matter, because everything up until that point had been so spectacularly gnarly that a little more unbelievably, it didn't matter. For this sequel, they've dialed up the absurdity way past 11 and crafted just about every action scene to be drenched in more and more lunacy. Just as with the first plot, this storyline, it's straightforward. A man trying to get from one place to another when he's accosted by baddies who are intent on doing him harm. Except they pick a fight with the wrong guy. Instead, though, of watching Aatami trudge along on foot, here he's got a massive truck. So we get a Mad Max sort of situation with vehicles becoming the main mode of transport. And by itself, this isn't a bad thing. The first kills we get are creative and cause me to burst out laughing because of the abruptness. And then when a chase begins, it's bloody, savage, and full of carnage. And at this point, we get our first insane action set piece that you're going to have to leave all reason and skepticism at the door for. I'm not saying that it isn't an entertaining bit, but it will make your eyes roll just a little bit. Then the story says, hold my beer. We're then treated to two more absolutely fantastical and ludicrous battles that will have you chuckling and make you question the laws of physics. Tommila is once again incredibly emotional and expressive, despite barely speaking. For this outing, his eyes carry even more sadness and regret than in the first film. There are multiple points where we can feel his grief, and despite being this total beast of a warrior, he's not unfeeling, which then works to keep him endearing. I mean, if he were robotic and lacking any emotional responsiveness, it'd be difficult to connect. But thanks to his pained and tortured countenance, the character transforms from this one-dimensional killing machine to someone who understands sacrifice and loss, but also doesn't ignore his righteous, rageful vengeance. On the opposite side, we have Stephen Lang playing the villain, and unfortunately, the story doesn't leave a whole lot for him to do. Much of the time, he's directing goons with hand gestures and small verbal commands, removing a lot of his menace and threat. Now, there is a point towards the finale of the movie where he does become a merciless adversary. And for once, we really feel as though Aatami might have met his match. And I appreciated this portion of the arc because despite being the man who refuses to die, he is human, and he takes such a beating throughout the story that it would be possible for him to succumb to all his wounds. Now, it wouldn't be a satisfying conclusion, but it would be a little bit realistic. Now, something that left me a bit wanting in this storyline was the lack of hand-to-hand battles. There are some, but what was so compelling and heinously breathtaking about the first film was that unhinged barbarity of the fights. Knives going through heads, weapons becoming improvised to act beyond their intended use. And then that one river scene that had all of my screening just collectively gasping out loud. But for Road to Revenge, the hand-to-hand, it's kept to the bare minimum, instead using vehicles to carry out the violence. Now, this can be fun and inventive at times, but it's also safe and unoriginal, a lot of it. As we have seen just so many other action films use cars, tanks, and planes as the main form of weapons. So instead of inventive ways to end a person, we now have the run-of-the-mill squashing with a truck tire or obliteration via car crash. And it's not that this doesn't create exciting, even entertaining chaos, it's just not memorable, other than the outlandish stunts that I had hinted at earlier. Now, overall, I wasn't disappointed with SISU Road to Revenge, but I wasn't overly impressed either. This execution is cautious and conservative with all of the elements other than the trio of silly stunts. The acting by Jorma Tamila continues to surprise with the emotional depth and meaning that he can convey without uttering a word. Unfortunately, the story doesn't provide adequate material for Stephen Lang to showcase his honed callousness, but he works with what he has to craft as evil villain as he's able. The 88 minutes go by fast, and the story doesn't waste time on plot development, instead choosing simplicity to keep the narrative lean and efficient. This isn't the superior film in the series, but it is an adrenaline-fueled psychotic break of a movie with some set pieces that will have you laughing incredulously. There's no sex or nudity, a bunch of profanity, and then an absolute ton of bloody violence. I give SISU Road to Revenge 3 out of 5 couches. Now, I'd probably wait for VOD or streaming on this one, or at the very most, a matinee. Okay, are there any crazy action films that you like to watch? I'd love to get some recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.